T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, folks. Welcome to the Launch Sequence Podcast. Back with you for another week of chatting about space games, of course, particularly Star Citizen. But this week, got a special guest, somebody who has self-proclaimedly not played Star Citizen, but has very much gotten to see what it's about over the last couple of months and posted a couple reactions, and I think people want to just kind of hear what you have to say about it. So thank you so much for joining me today, Kai Zammit. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about Star Citizen, because as I said, I've not played it, but I've seen a fair few hours of it now with the reactions. It's been at least a couple of hours I've seen of it, so yeah. But thank you for having me, man. It's good to be here.
Oh, it's going to be a good time. The not having played it obviously is not going to lead to us talking about like what's good and not good in terms of gameplay, but I think that you do have a unique perspective because you've come in relatively, I think, blind, not really knowing anything about the game. But you've gotten the chance to kind of learn about it without dealing with it. It's just like you haven't really played it too much, but you've, as you've said, seen in the comments that people have let you know how the game performs.
Yeah, it's I've seen a few hours of it now, so I've done all the ship trailers. I first did the Squadron 42 trailer. That's the first one I did, which is the single player part, I believe.
Yeah.
From the community, and I was genuinely, honestly, I was impressed, very impressed by the quality of everything. And you know, with my videos, I always look at the cinematography and the videography and things like that. You know, that's kind of my passion. But then everyone was like, "You guys should check out the ship trailers. You're gonna love them," and that was it. And then it's kind of snowballed from there. And hopefully next week it will be the StarEngine trailer.
Yeah, that's
So,
gonna be.
I heard that one's a doozy.
That's a fun one. Yeah. If you guys haven't seen these videos, do I have the name right? Kai Zammit? Is that
It's Kai Zammit, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So that'll be down in the show notes. You guys can check that out. But they're good watches. I watched the Squadron 42 one back when you did it. I was like, you know, this guy, he sees a lot of stuff, and it's very, I think you point out a lot of things that maybe somebody who follows very closely might be like, oh yeah, these little things that they notice. But obviously you have the eye of somebody who's used to making film and knows the little things that goes into those. And I think people appreciate seeing that pointed out.
Yeah, I like to find, and the thing is, a lot of people watch the same stuff I do. It's just my brain works differently because I'm looking at how it's technically made. What's the point of doing that? And the reason is, every time you see something move video-wise, there's a reason for it. Well, there should be, at least, even if it's a happy accident. You know, a little bit of Bob Ross in like it's a good accident.
Yes.
So
yeah, it's a pretty game. Speaking of pretty videos, folks, not to segue weirdly into that, but you might notice my camera's a little weird today. I'm sure we're going to see comments about that. We had a little bit of a camera malfunction over the week, and we're working on grabbing a new one. I just want to put that out there. So let's get into kind of how should we go about this? You were watching the videos, you're watching a lot of the ship videos, and actually, let me start by this. You didn't start recently doing these reactions. You've been doing them for a little while. Your channel's been going for some time. I'm actually interested in hearing more first about how that happened, how you got to having a YouTube React channel, if you expected it to be what it is, and kind of like how you decide what to react to. How'd you find Star Citizen? That's a lot of questions.
Well, that's yeah. Damn, they're like, you can have one. There's two. Do you know what? I have four questions.
Whichever you'd like to take first.
Well, it's good. It's a bit like my brain. I'll start with one question and I'll answer another question. You asked me an hour ago. Right. How did I start with the Star Citizen happened because of the community. That's it. I like to listen to you guys. At the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, my channel, the YouTube side, I think, doesn't exist without the community. And it's as simple as that. So I like to listen to what they're saying. And a lot of the time they always say, hey, Kai, there's something I think you're going to really like. Or they get really excited about something. And when you get like excitement for something, and you've got a small knit community of friends, and they're not into it.
Hmm.
So you go seeking for someone else that's going to look for something that you might have missed in a trailer or whatever, or get excited about something. And that's kind of where I fit in. It's almost like, and I love that. And that's what my channel's based upon. It's very much like you're coming to hang out with me. It's very much like you've come around a friend's house. They're like, have you seen the new trailer for this? And I'm like, no. And then I sit with you and we
Nerd
watch
out.
together. But yeah, it's thanks. And that's very similar to why I started the channel, because it started with my wife actually moaning at me. That's why it was like we'd watch movies or TV and that together. And when I have a close knit group of friends, I still have, but I've moved away from them for quite some time. And I used to do it to my wife. We'd watch movies, TV shows, and I'd be like, "Oh, they do that by this. Oh, that camera shot means this." Or look the way the editors cut this in. Or I didn't like that. And then she'd have a go at me. She'd be like, "You're ruining the movies, ruining the TV show. Stop it." I was like, okay, so I stopped doing that, and then I started doing it in the commercials. You know, when you get an ad break would come on. I was like, oh, that commercial, look at that shot, lovely backlighting. And she went, you're ruining the commercials for me now. Doesn't even care about the commercials. So I was like, you know what? There must be some way I can rant and release this excitement for filmmaking, but where can I go with it? And that's when the YouTube channel started. However, I went into gaming because it's something that I grew up with. I'm an avid gamer, or was, but not so much now. So it's like, well, how can I take a hobby, take something else that I love, filmmaking, and put the two together? And I like to think of it's more like edutainment. So you're being educated on film at the same time, if you're interested, that is, or you're just being entertained. And that's kind of where it started. And that has been going for about a year and a half now, the reaction side of it.
Is there
Yeah.
any other side of it? Have you done any other YouTube stuff before this?
No other YouTube stuff. There is the channel's been going for about 10 years, but it's not. It's been 2 years since I've been doing this. But the earliest video I have on this from about 10 years ago, because what I used to do is at film university is I would have the film modules, and then I would adapt them, make them longer, or create the content that I wanted to, and then put them on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them's like a 20-minute biker documentary that I made, and that had like over 500,000 views over the years, and and bikers watch it every now and then. And I was going to delete it, or not delete it, hide it, and then one guy comes back yearly and watches it. I don't know why, and he says, "Look, when I'm down or depressed or anything like that, I'll come back and I'll watch this." And I was like, and I always say this to students when I teach. I'm like, you might think you're making something that's a bit rubbish or whatever, but you never know. It might be rubbish to you, even though you made it, but you never know the power of what art or something can be.
Yeah.
And if I took that down, what's that guy going to do?
Yeah.
He might be on the edge. And so,
That's
and if it makes him happy, then
that
absolutely.
could be a big thing. That's a good point, especially with YouTube. Something like that. A lot of people, might not think of YouTube as being that important, but for some folks, YouTube is a lifeline.
Exactly. And I have a comments all the time. I have quite a few DMs like on Instagram and stuff, and they're like, "Thank you so much for creating the content. I've been a bit down recently or depressed or whatever," and they're like, "Your videos just take me out of it," because my videos go from reaction videos like what you've seen, which is an hour, maybe 15 minutes or whatever, to sometimes I'll do like all the cutscenes in a game, and they're like 3 hours long, and people love them. So I don't mind chatting about, and also they're games that I've never played, so it's a chance to experience the story, but not get everything spoilt for me, so I can play it if I want to, if I get a chance. But at the same time, I can tell you why that story worked, or what my interpretation of it was, and what I think the director or the cinematographer that is in the DOP was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I think I answered all your questions.
Yeah, no, that was good. Well done. I'll stick to one question now to make it easier.
Excellent.
Yeah. Now I just bust out 3 new questions. So your channel is Filmmaker Reacts. Can you be any more specific?
Right, yeah.
Kind of what part of filmmaking are you more involved in? Like, what's your focus or passion?
So when it comes to the channel, I look at all aspects of it. Narrative is kind of my key thing, but in my private work, because I'm only part-time content creator, my technical title is actually creative director. So what happens is I work at a production company in the south of the UK, and clients and brands, sometimes corporate, but brands will come in and they'll say, I need X, Y, and Z. I need this to made. I need to do that. And I work more in the commercial side of things. So that's why I was really keen on looking at the ship commercials and I got really excited about it because that's the area I work in. You know, I put stuff online and for TV. So that's kind of where my avenue is. I get this a lot actually in the comment section. You always get the negative ones. It was like, you ain't no filmmaker. You don't do features. I was like, no, I don't do features. I'm not interested in features because you're stuck to one role. It's very much a community. What I do is, to be fair, now if I'm directing, I'll just direct. Or if I'm doing DP, I'll just do the lighting. But you very much hands on with the whole thing. Like I'll take like for example, I did one for Africa. I had to film a commercial for Africa, not in Africa, in the UK. Make it look like Africa and create the whole thing, direct it on set, work out with the problems that you got to do. Then I edit it myself and I color grade it. I do everything. We do everything in house. We're a very small knit team, and I love that.
Okay.
And you know, you have to do everything. And if that's not filmmaking, then I don't know what the hell is.
Yeah, that sounds pretty hands-on to me.
Yeah, exactly. And it's but it does make me laugh when you get on. One of the best comments I ever had. He was like, it's like saying you're a cleaner at an airstrip, like an airport or something like that, and saying that you're a pilot. And I said, what happens if you fly a small plane? Well, what happens if I only fly small planes? Surely I'm still a pilot, right?
Yeah.
The thing was, I like tackling those negative comments because I'm from the UK. We like a bit of banter, and it makes you grow. Yeah, no, it's it's more the commercial side, not the feature side.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. That's really cool. I hear you on the YouTube comments. If the best way to know if you're wrong about something is just to say it online, and somebody will be sure to come and tell you, even if it is something that you do for a living.
Oh yeah, I was like, mate, you want to write my autobiography? You know me better than I do. Oh yeah, I love it. But it's nice. But then you get idiots like that, and they are, you know. But then you've got the people that, you know, that have said to me that I've improved my photography game, or I've improved when I film stuff at home, or you know, I have quite a lot of game animators as well. They'll say to me, the information that you're giving when I break stuff down is so informative that it's helped me improve what I want to do when I create cutscenes for games and things like that. And it's just sharing knowledge, isn't it? And that's what we're here for, is to share knowledge and have fun while we're doing it. And so, yeah,
it's a good mission. Let's talk about the ship commercials.
Let's go.
So
if you say a name, I'm not going to know it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I've got 2-part videos. So I've got part 1 where I covered all the earlier commercials, and then part 2 where I covered the later ones. So you're gonna have to. Earlier on, you mentioned a ship commercial to me, and I was like, "What now?"
We'll go by themes and colors, and which one has backlighting, right? Which is all the later ones, it seems.
Yes, because they've learned how to make it look more sexier.
Yeah, you know, definitely. So that's I guess the first thing to talk about is like over the years, there's definitely been an improvement in the quality and the way they've made their trailers. They used to be very much. So they're supposed to be in-game commercials. Like it's supposed to be this idea that the people in game are living this life. Not everybody in this fiction has a ship. It's not like having a car in our current day. It's like the top of the top have spaceships. So technically anybody who plays the game is considered like the cream of the crop, most wealthy in this fiction that we're in. And the idea is that those people are all getting advertised to by these in-fiction ship commercials. So they started out with like this very, very heavy on the nose sort of, these are car commercials but made for spaceships kind of theme.
They were very much product placements.
Yeah.
You could see that they were like, as if they were done on an infinity curve, like in a photography studio, and it was all like, look at this, look at that, and then they're all right. And I said in the video, I said by the third one I was bored, and that's the point. They clearly knew that they had to change their game up.
Yeah, so you think that those probably were not going to last very long?
No, if you can still keep doing them to a certain degree, because they incorporated it later, didn't they? When they started showing off, because the thing is for me, I'm always talking about the lasting impression. So which one leaves that lasting ever thought? You know, you leave the cinema or you leave something. I haven't seen those commercials for what? I don't know when I released that video, 3 weeks ago, and yet some of them are still lingering in my head. That's a good thing. So they
That's
did
true,
that
yeah.
product thing, and then they went a little bit more narrative based, didn't they, with people? And then when they introduced one of the alien ships, it looked foreign. Do you know what I mean? It had that look to it. It went back to a product placement, but it was done slightly different. They had a little bit more fog in there, haze, but it was the same thing. They just changed the way it looked. More backlighting, more low-key lighting. Low-key is very heavy on the contrast. That's what that means.
Yeah.
Where the other ones were very bright. But you can see they. What I do like about them is each one's kind of got its own style. And I've noticed that. Like there's ones that I can't think what it is. Is it Origin? No, it's not Origin.
Might be Origin. Fancy.
Origin. Yeah, yeah. Like one of them looks like Porsche or Ferrari. Like the way it's done,
Yeah.
it's all white and very clinical. And then you'll have the ones that are like truckers. And
Yes.
I quite.
They
I dig
come in
them
with the deep
ones,
voice.
that-
You gotta haul your goods. It's kind of that kind of
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're very tech savvy, aren't they? They're almost like very infomercial type things. Where my favourite ones are, I can't think which one it was. My favourite one is the one that everyone likes, where it's more like about the journey, the narrative of everything. But I have, which one is it? It's one,
The
it's one like an
Carrack?
arrow.
The Arrow.
Is it Anvil? Anvil?
Anvil has a lot of all their ships are very angular like
Yeah,
that.
they're like, yeah, I like those ones.
Yeah.
And yeah, some of them I can just like, yeah, I'm gonna like this already. And one of them started going to more like Japanese sort of
Mirai.
esque.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
calling
and it's
those
like
out.
Marai. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay. But they're sticking with the culture, aren't they? They've got like the voiceover talent. I'm positive that's Shang Tsung from the new Mortal Kombat. So you know, and it sounds great, and that's what I mean. They're not like just having a look, and even the cinematography in that's very Neo Tokyo, isn't it? Even like the later ones, it kind of works for it.
Yeah. They got that cyberpunk kind of vibe.
Yeah, and then there was another one which was done. Remind me of like the Red Bull Air Show. We invited real pilots or
Yes.
something. Is that?
Yes. So the cool part about that trailer is that those are all the voices in there are actually players that race in the different leagues in Star Citizen. So CIG reached out to them, got their voices to come in.
That's what it was.
Yeah. So they
'Cause I was
had
like,
the racers go and try the ship early to kind of have a little preview for the advertisement, which I think was pretty creative. It was good.
I didn't know if they were pilots, like gamers,
Mhm.
who love it, or they were actually genuinely fighter pilots having a go at the game. I was like,
Oh.
surely it's not the latter. But no way.
No.
Yeah, but it's interesting how they did it though, didn't they? They showed it. It had that kind of Red Bull Air show
Mhm.
type
Yeah.
feel to it, and then it went a little bit more cinematic near the end.
Yeah. So it's funny you bring that up. This is a bit of a tangent, but there's an event recently that happened that it's called the Daymar Rally, which is just like this long 500-kilometer race across a desert. But it's meant to be kind of like the Dakar Rally. And you mentioned the Red Bull thing, and I thought of that because
Yep.
people are basically doing that same thing in Star Citizen. And that's part of what draws people in is like it is a game that allows you to do things that other games just simply don't.
And I think that's why I find it so inviting. Yes, granted, it looks beautiful and it's stunning. But my biggest question from those videos is the first one, I was like, okay, I get what the premise is. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then my big question, because there's normally with my videos, there's normally a big question. And I'm like, what the hell do you do in this game? What do you do? And everyone was like, you just live. You just do you. And I was like,
Survive.
what? And that was like one of your questions. You were like, what would you do? And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So like I would love to open that up to you and just ask if you're playing a space game like this, I don't know if you have ever tried space games, if you're interested in them, but like if you were going to be in a game like this where you could just hop into spaceships and do things out in space, you just ask yourself what you would do. And the game is nowhere near complete, so there's a lot of options missing, but chances are you can find something kind of like what you're looking for. And mining, salvaging, racing, combat and in the ground or in space. You can leave your ship, you
So
can stay in your ship, all this
when you
stuff.
start the game up, because you earlier on you mentioned something, and I was like, I got a bit worried then. I was like, so you don't even get a ship when you start the game out. You just It's you and your 2 feet.
No, you get a ship. You can't.
Oh, okay.
You cannot get the game.
You get your
without a
starter
ship.
kit.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, you
Some
get your
people
starter
want
kit.
that
Okay.
though. That's something that gets requested. Can I have the game without a ship, and then I'm forced to kind of figure my way out? So I mean,
Okay.
it's something
That's
people
very
want, but
immersive. That sounds like a lot
you
of time.
can't. Yeah, you can't buy the game without getting a ship. So you're good.
Oh, okay. Because yeah, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. It feels like I've got to do 100 hours just to get to earn a
Ooh,
copper
no.
to get a coin.
No, no,
Yeah.
you're fine. The game is very accessible. $45.
Amazing.
You get that ship. You will never lose that ship because you bought it with real money. Where it starts to get more trippy is as you get into the other ships. All those commercials that you watched have a bunch of ships that also have price tags associated with them, and obviously gameplay. So that's where things start to get more complicated.
Mm. Yeah, I
Um,
saw a lot of the comments talk about how much the ships cost, and I was like, please tell me that's in-game dollars. They're like, no, that's real dollars. I was like,
yep.
yeah, I think that game sounds a bit too pricey for my liking.
Yeah. So
One in
that's
time and in the dollar.
that can scare people away. Um, it's important to know
Mm.
that it's never required. All of those ships can be bought in game, but there are benefits to getting them with real money. It's a very complicated story, the funding of the game itself. And maybe we can get into that, but let's get back to the ship commercials and the brands, because we didn't
Yeah.
really get to get all the way through those. So you were talking about how some of them kind of came off as having uh certain styles to them, right? Origin
Yep.
was very like fancy.
Yeah,
All
so
of
they've got a
them,
branding continuity.
yes, yeah, and it's crazy. There's so much lore to the backstory of each brand that I saw when you were watching the consolidated Outland video. The guy would always come up on the screen and start talking to you, kind of selling his ship. I think you looked at him and you said, "Oh, it's this bloke again," because he's
Oh yeah.
always acting very pompous on the screen, right?
Yes, he's very I can even see it in my head, and I was just like, this guy's just selling me stuff. I don't want a salesman. I want the stories of real people. And that's when they started getting a little bit later on, they started doing that, didn't they?
Hmm.
And then they started getting really, the last one I watched was like really action based. Like, I'm gonna hunt you down. And it was all like I was like, whoa, okay, that's cool. They've really changed it.
Yeah,
Yeah, they've
they
all got their all it's interesting. I didn't realise they had such lore. Like I kind of guessed they would, but not to that extent. Like it's always the same guy advertising his ships, if that makes sense.
hmm No, it's very different. You'll have people in the community too who are also very focused on like some people are very big on Drake stands. They don't want anything else. Some people will say Origin or nothing else, all the fanciest. Some folks love the Misk stuff. So it's cool that they've kind of built that sense of community up with each brand. The best trailer I think that they've released is actually one that you talked about. It was the trucking one where it was all a time lapse following
Yeah, it was a
this
time lapse.
cargo
Yeah,
truck.
yeah.
Yeah. Tell me what you liked about that one.
Um, Again, I've not seen this for a while, so I'm trying to go on what I remember.
Sure.
I think what I liked about it was the time lapse of it. The time lapse caught me off guard, and it just took you on a journey, didn't it? And it kept you with it. And because everything's moving on screen, it's not boring. And and that's the one thing that I really liked about it. I'd have to watch it again to tell you everything I liked about it. But
Hmm.
that shot, it caught me off guard, and I wasn't expecting it. And I was like, oh yeah, this is nice. It's more of a visual thing, and I love the fact that they keep the voiceover talent with the audience or the theme of the video. It fits its narrative, and that's what I really liked about it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was that hyperlapse look that happened. Is kind of it's not like here's the cargo. It's going from A to B. It was like actually quite beautiful when you look at it, and how they manipulated. So when it went into sort of hyper, I've never seen like hyperspace or slip space done that way.
Hmm.
It's always been very shut it off and you're in a tube, yeah. Do you know what I mean? A bit like Stargate. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've ever seen Stargate. It's very like that, isn't it? You know, or Star Wars. It's a flash of light and it's gone. Where that kind of showed you everything, so it kind of kept you in the world. So that's what makes me really excited about the in-engine trailer? Because apparently that's got a lot of more of that in.
Yes.
I don't know how to what extent, but
It's
I'm kind of
actually
excited to see
it's
that.
a little different because it changed over time. That trailer's like 3 years old. So that travel
Was
mode,
it?
yeah. So the travel mode that they showed you in that trailer changes a little bit. In the one you're going to watch, the StarEngine trailer, it looks much cooler.
Yeah.
It actually looks
Oh, okay.
but it looks more like what you're describing in that you're kind of encapsulated it in a bubble. So
Yep.
it's based on real technology. Alcubierre drive is like a thing, and there's a bunch of theory around it, and so they've modeled the in-game version of that, and you can kind of see them creating that. It creates a bubble and moves you through space and like all this weird stuff. But the StarEngine trailer definitely has that. The StarEngine trailer has it is very cool. It's basically it shows everything that they hope works well in their engine,
Okay.
in like
Okay. So
one
that's because at
continuous
the end of the day,
shot.
they're selling, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're selling, aren't they? They're still. That's what all these commercials are, aren't they? They're there to sell you the ships, and this is why I love doing the channel because a lot of people are like, do you play stuff beforehand or anything like that? And I'm like, well, they'll say to me, why don't you do research on it? And I'm like, what's the point? Like, I don't want to do research. I love being a cold caller and working it out for myself because that's part of what narrative's about. If you know how narrative works, that's the exciting thing. So with these commercials, what I like those hours that we watched together, they went so quick. You're getting short stories and they're always changing it up, and that's what I loved about it. And I felt that was just so refreshing. So when I saw that hyper lapse done like that, and it was seeing the planet move and how it docked, and
Yeah.
the fact is, I said I can picture it in my mind. Tells you it's done its job when that's to leave a lasting impression, and to leave a lasting impression is how you make the money.
I think that that trailer hits really well. I find it funny that when you were watching it, you were mentioning the music not being the best part because the music is what always gets me.
Oh, that music was.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that music was trash. It was very generic. It was very generic. Jingle jangle. It's like why do that? I just don't do it. Honestly, music is there to. If you use music correctly, music is treated as another character. That's how you should use it, and it speaks directly to the audience. The only thing that was doing, it just was annoying me. It's like
What would
it's like
you
you know
have
when
put
you're
there?
trying to watch something and someone's talking to you and you're like, "Stop! I'm trying to watch something." That's what that was. That's what that was doing. With something like that, did I mention something a little bit more industrial, or did I
Mm,
not? If I didn't, I would say something that matches the visuals. It doesn't have to be a huge orchestral piece. It could have been a simple electronic tones and let the soundscape, so the sound effects do the heavy lifting. So it's almost like a hybrid. You don't know if it's music or it's score. Oh,
yeah.
sorry, you don't know if it's sound effects or score. Um, but I something a lot better than that. That's what I would have chosen.
It's
Yeah,
funny.
that was the biggest letdown.
It's funny you say that because that's always I play that trailer a lot on stream because I like it a lot. But that song is one of the few that they've used that will get you a copyright warning that you have to mute that song.
Yeah, I think I had to mute it in the
Yeah.
video. I
Yeah.
had to cut it out. That's probably why I don't remember it.
Yeah.
With
So
that or
people are
it,
like, what bad song is that? I can't hear anything. Good.
yeah, it's
You're
so
welcome.
bad. It's so bad. We're saving your ears. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
the
I
the
don't know who signed
star
that off.
the StarEngine trailers you're gonna like because it's one continuous shot and it goes through the whole star system. It'll show you actually more of what it's like to play the game, which is you can just fly down to planets, you can fly up into space, you can go to cities, like all of it without loading. It's sort of selling that idea, and I think there's people are there's conspiracies that these are trailers they're releasing to kind of get people excited for their game engine so they can start to maybe get people interested in using their engine more so
What
than
to create
just playing
games?
their game. Yeah. But other people obviously
Okay.
think that this is just to get players excited for what's coming next for Star Citizen. So you'll see it, and most of what's in there is already in the game. There are just a couple things like fire and things that aren't, but it's a pretty good representation of how the game works, just not the gameplay.
It'd be interesting. So, from my perspective as a filmmaker, I'm not the hugest fan of one takers, only because my shooting style is very quick. I like fast cuts. And again, I work with 30 seconds. If I've got to work with 30 seconds on TV, it's 30 seconds. You don't get longer than that. And online,
Yeah.
it's obviously do whatever you want. Um, Same as with Netflix. You see Netflix shows, each episode, and Disney Plus, that each show has a different duration because they're not limited or they're not stuck to a certain time, and it's great for creativity. But going back to my point, what I was saying about the one taker thing, it's not really my favorite thing, and the reason being is because I find them quite boring. Stuff has to happen in the shot to keep it exciting, using foreground elements or background elements. So when I watch it, I'll be looking out for what are they using to come up to the camera frame to draw your attention, to make your eyes get excited, because it's about 7 seconds and your eyes get bored.
I think you'll find that it's less meant to. It's not as exciting. Like it won't keep your focus like that. It's very much like a sit back
Oh,
and
look over there.
yeah, just kind of like soak everything in
Okay.
over time. One of those.
Okay, let me
kinds
ask
of
you this then. Does it have punch through shots? So is there like a tight space and it go?
videos. No, it's not.
Oh,
Because
it's
they do
maybe
that a
them.
lot in their
Oh, yeah.
trailers. Yeah, no, it's
Oh, okay.
definitely not the same vibe as
That's how you
that.
refresh it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna be when I start that video up, I'll be like,
Actually,
Mr. Tomato said to me that
wait,
this is
wait.
good,
No,
but don't get
there
too
might be
excited.
one. There might be one at the very end. I think they might do one. Maybe. We'll have to see. I'll watch the reaction
All
and
right.
see if I was wrong. But
Well, I'll leave a comment on it, and I'll get if I get excited. By the end of it, the point of this is the whole point of these is, can it sell to me, who's a cold caller, who knows nothing of this world? And so far, I love the idea of the game. And to answer your question ages ago, you said, what would I do in space? I'm a bit of an explorer. I just like the idea of just exploring. Like, you know, when you start a mission on a game and you go, oh, I'm just going to go over here and have a look to the left. What's down that alley? What's down that path?
Yeah.
That's the sort of gamer that I would be. And I like the idea of the battle stuff. I didn't even know that was a thing. So again, what do you do in this game? So I'll find out one day.
When you say the battle stuff, you mean just like the ship fighting in space?
I don't know. You said battle stuff. So is that on foot or is that on ships? I don't know.
Either. You could do both. There's a lot of fighting.
Okay, so I think, if I'm being honest, I think what will happen is cause I said about Squadron 42, and someone said that the game's not even, it's been in making for like 10 years or something like that.
Yes.
Like, I think
Yes.
the single player is made ideally, granted it's going to be for you fans and whatnot, but I think a lot of that's going to be used to get someone like me in, is to open up that threshold and go, come on, there's a bit of a single player here, and then it's almost like used as just an enticing tool. It's like, come in, look what you're missing out on. Oh, by the way, while you're here, this is what else you've got to look at, and you can go exploring and do all the other stuff that you've got to do. I think that's, hopefully it's not, if it's anything like that trailer with the two women, that'd be amazing.
That's a good video. I think that's an interesting one because that's a ship trailer. And it just goes to show how much they were putting into that ship specifically when it came out. Like you can tell which ships are the most hyped because they put the most effort into those trailers. That thing got a lot of coverage.
Yeah, but it looks good.
Oh yeah.
When I was watching it, I said, "This is fantastic. That they've got a golden egg here with narrative." And there were some shots in there that were just ridiculous, but whatever. It feeds the narrative of what it is.
Oh my god.
And it's like, and there's some bits in it that are just so scripted. Obviously, it's meant to be scripted, but I was just like, well, clearly she's gonna backstab her and then forgive everybody. It's so easy for me. I don't know if it's because I've seen so much of it, but it's just I try not to talk over all of it because it spoils it for people. So, and then they used it again, didn't they? They built that asset and then they used it again to further it out on the next one. They used it twice.
Yeah. The the scene where they're running away down the street in a straight line, getting shot at from every direction, and nobody's.
Oh my god, that is ridiculous! I think well, they stormtroopers shooting.
Yeah,
them.
it's the Star Wars.
So, they were going out and getting their shopping. They were like this.
Oh no!
I've never seen anything like. I've never seen anything like. That's what I mean. There's stuff like that you just think, okay, I can see your limitations now. And again, is that is it a money like? Is it like it's not spend a lot of money on it? To be fair, they could have made that really easy by shaking the camera up a little bit, or just adding an additional cut in there, rather than that, because it really pulls you out of the experience, doesn't it? When you're watching, you're like, what are they doing?
Yeah,
Going for a jog.
that's a very, it's hard not to notice that part.
Yeah,
What
and
do
stuff like
you
that will pull you out of your experience.
One of the things that people have had questions about over time, and I think these have been qualmed a little bit now that we've seen the Squadron 42 video that you just saw, but people have been concerned with like how is this going to actually present? Is the writing going to come through well? Is the overall direction and like does it feel like a good cinematic experience from what you've seen so far? Do you feel like this is it's solid content?
Of Squadron 42 in particular, the single player
I
part of
would
it, or the
say
whole game.
really just yeah, any of the narrative pieces that are coming from so Squadron, this one you just mentioned with the two
Mhm.
girls and some of the longer trailers.
I feel like, yeah, I think the narrative's there. Both of those trailers made me want to find out more. Does that make sense? Like it's making me ask questions, and that's kind of a good thing. It means it's if someone said to me, "Do you really want to play a space game?" I'll be like, "Yeah, I know exactly which one I want to do." Like, if I had time in the world, I'd jump on in. But that's what worries me a little bit about stuff like this, because it's like sometimes they'll have something beautiful and it looks great, but the story's like a wet lettuce. It kind of like you're like, "Oh, that was a good sandwich of just
Yeah.
nothing,"
Yeah.
and it's not meant to be that. But what I was saying in that trailer with the two female leads, like even though I was moaning about a little bit of them running, and I was talking about it was so scripted, it was okay. I still got invested. I was like, I said, the ultimate compliment I said was they've got a Star Wars-esque franchise that they could make within this world, and that's good. It means it hooked me on a story. Like I was really interested. I'm like, well, what is her job role? Well, what is they're very 3D dimensional characters. They're not 2D. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And same as with like Gary Oldman and Mark Strong, those actors. God, I didn't see too much of Mark Hamill, but I heard there's another trailer with him in it or something
Yeah.
that I've not checked out. Yes, it's star power, but what they were saying was good. Like Gary Oldman had a bit of a speech,
Mm-hmm. That
and
was a good speech.
it's good stuff, isn't it? Like, but even for someone like me who's not, I'm not frothing at the mouth trying to ships and things, but I was like, damn, this is good.
Yeah.
Like I was invested in it. And the start, and I said in that video, in the Squadron 42 one, I said, even though they had all this star talent, not once did I go, yes, I was like, oh my God, it's them in, but I completely forgot that was Mark Strong. He was number 2, whatever he was, or number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you've got the captain, Gary Oldman. I felt like, yes, it's Gary Oldman, but it's not Gary Oldman. Does that make sense? It's the actual character in the game. And that's good writing. If I was like, all right, Gary, have it on, mate, come on. Then it's not good writing, because you can't break the dimension of the actor coming through. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. You don't really want to have a game that, yeah, you hired this great talent for, but now people only see that talent and they don't see the character that they're supposed to be playing.
And that's what makes a good actor. But it's not just a good actor. Yes, it's a good actor, but it's also how the character's represented within the world that they're representing. So that's the camera.
Mm-hmm.
That fourth wall, this lens, is what tells us the story. So this is why I'm saying shake the camera, move the camera in, do this, do that, because the character is the camera's your eye into this world. And so when they're doing punching shots, remember there was a shot when that alien came down. I was like, oh, it's like Batman. But it gave me the presence that it was like Batman, an alien Batman, and I loved it because it sold. And another thing what I really liked about it is they weren't afraid, where a lot of games will. They were bringing it in here, and that is cinema, right across the forehead, right underneath the chin. And what that does is it pulls you into the eyes, and it doesn't matter if you're alien, human, monster. You don't even have to have eyes. As long as you bring it here, it draws the audience in, and they were doing that in that cinematic. And both the story. The only thing I hated about it was the bloke shooting. He was laying on the floor just shooting them all the time. I couldn't understand that.
Wait, what was that? Which part?
In Squadron 42.
Oh, at the end
42,
when he's fighting the aliens.
He's always on the floor, and everyone was like, "To be fair, he's playing on super hard." I was like, "Yeah, but he ain't selling it to me."
Oh yeah, super hard, sure. They go down
I
in a
was like,
couple
"Why is he
seconds.
laying on the?" That was the only thing. It was the gunplay that pulled me out, and the is the sponge bullet thing, and I just couldn't understand that. But the
Yeah,
rest of it was, as I said to you, well, I said to the guys watching, I said it's so immersive. Like you didn't have to spend that long in that turret or going through all the air docks. You know, when you're going through outside the ship, then you're
yeah.
inside the ship.
Hmm.
Didn't have to do that. By doing that, that's what makes it immersive, and it's very much it's kind of it's a double-sided coin, isn't it? It's like it's a fantastic thing, but it can also be a bad thing. So for the core
Yeah,
fans, who's wanting that immersive experience, it's going to be amazing. But the other side, who wants that quick action thrill, it's not for them. And I wouldn't mind. I'd be like, well, it's not for you then, is it?
yeah.
Leave it for the people that do want it.
There are other games, yeah, and probably other parts
Exactly,
of the
there are
game
other
too.
games.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
I don't know if you know this, but speaking of all the like star power and people they were putting on camera, the alien was actually Andy Serkis.
I heard. I heard. Yes,
Yeah.
I
So they,
didn't know that, and I was shocked. I get it because it's like his body language and things, but I was just a
yeah,
bit like, I didn't get it at the same time, and I was like, is that one or advertisement purposes? Like, is that like, oh, we've got X, Y, and Z in it?
yeah.
That makes
I
sense.
I do think. I mean, obviously, he's the best. As far as I know, he's like the best motion capture artist for things like that from the
Absolutely.
Planets or the Apes movies and things like that. And I think he was doing something with Epic around the time that he signed on with Squadron. So it might have been a little bit of hype there. I do think that Star
I
Citizen
think
is
so
prone to
because
that.
you can get body coaches. You know, like if you ever seen RoboCop, the movie?
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know, like Weller had to get in a movement coach, and this guy was made just for movement, and like someone like that could have done it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
He's getting on a bit now, but like the movement coach who was French, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he, you could have had anyone doing it. But then again, the alien, was it him also speaking it as well in that dialect?
I
Or they
believe
get
so.
another? Yeah, okay, so that makes it a little bit more immersive, doesn't it? Because they're like, oh look, it's also not only him acting it, but it's actually him doing the alien tongue.
Yeah,
I don't
which they
know. Let's call
made.
it Klingon.
I mean, they made. You saw one of the other aliens actually in that video with the girl backstabbing her friend. You remember when she goes she sneaks away in the end and she goes to that little body pod and looks in and there's the guy with the blue. He's like blue skin.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So that's like a really subtle little teaser that they dropped for one of the 4 alien races in the game. And
Oh, there's only humans in it.
right now, right now, but
What
there
about
are
the aliens?
aliens.
What about all the alien? Can you? Because I've seen the ships. I've seen
Hmm.
alien ships. Are
Yeah.
there in it? And can you like bump into them in on planets or not?
You can use the alien ships, yeah.
Yeah, but can you see the aliens mulling about?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not sentient aliens. We got like space cows and like dogs and birds and stuff, but not aliens that will talk and trade with you and things like that. That's I think going to
Like
be a
NPC,
while
yeah, like
away.
NPC.
Yeah, that's a
Oh,
while
okay,
away.
interesting.
But it is part of the plan, and they have developed original languages for I think 3 of them that you can actually learn. So they've gone very in depth in areas like that. And then
I feel like with it, I feel like rather than most games will just go big. This is it, and it's very thin. You know, again, let's take a big baguette, right? It's the easy way to explain it. You got a
mhm,
baguette. It's quite long. It's quite large. And you're getting that butter or that filler, yeah, and you're spreading it in there, and it's very thin because you're trying to cover. You've got one knife roll of butter or whatever, yeah. What I found with this game so far, and just the way you're talking and the way the community is, they've spent the time on smaller things. So you know, it's not the whole baguette, but you might get half of it. But each bit is very, very well padded out. Like you said, you've got lore on ships. You said you haven't got aliens in there, but you've got alien lore, tongue, languages. That's a lot of stuff for something you haven't seen yet. Do you know what I mean? That's quite.
yeah.
I applaud that.
Yeah, I would
That
say
gets me excited for the game.
sticking with that metaphor, like they've they've needed the dough for a very long time.
Yeah,
They're just now putting it in the
yeah.
oven. And we're like, we really want this baguette because you haven't given us any parts of it yet. But we can see you've been putting it together for a while, so people are hopeful because, like you said, it's been in development for a long time. They announced this like 12 plus years ago.
I heard it's like billions. This game.
It's
is
about I'd say 8 to 900 million at this point they've raised.
Oh, it's million. Okay,
Yeah,
because I was like,
yeah.
when I heard billions, I was like,
No,
I think
no,
that
no, no.
I think that person's off his head. Because the other comment I got, the biggest one, other than people telling me to check out other adverts, was it was a scam. This is a scam. That is the biggest one I got, and I was like, whoa, hate her much. But the thing is, it's like, are you someone that's invested money and not got return? Because I can understand the scorn. But like, if you don't like it, don't play it. Like, you know, as you said earlier, there's other games for you. So that is my question to you: and that's a big one. This one's going to cause a bit of a stir.
Oh,
is
yeah.
this game is it a scam?
Oh, that just makes it too
That's
easy
a lot-
for me to make
that's
a
a long
nice
pause.
clip out of this. No,
That's a long
it's-
pause, dude.
It's actually no. It's a funny conversation. Okay, no, it's not a scam. It's very easy to see that it is not. They're making a game. It's coming along. It has been, I would say, a very poorly managed, ambitious project. They bit off so much. The easiest way to put it is like they took on a project like GTA 6 when they had a studio that was like 12, 15, 20 people. And
Wow. Okay.
it's like GTA 6, but then you're also including space stuff. Now, that's not to say that this is GTA in space, and that's like a really bad metaphor. I don't want anybody to get that idea, but the
No,
scale.
yeah, I get the scale. Yeah.
Yeah. Rockstar is trying to make a huge game, both single and multiplayer. They're trying to make them in parallel, and they're trying to make something that will just blow everyone away. That's what this company's trying to do. And they started it as a new company without the IP, without any of these assets, without any of the lore. So they took a long time doing all of that kind of stuff. And during that time, they were still telling people that they were going to be getting a game. And so there are millions of people out there who have spent money over the last 12 years and were hoping for something to come along faster and simply have not seen it. On top of that, we've had ships that you've seen in those commercials that have still not landed in players' hands but been sold for money. We've seen many features and updates be pushed back quite a bit further than was originally advertised. Obviously, price tags for these ships are very high, so that on its own is not
I've heard.
great. Yeah, it's not good visually. Obviously, it's to fund this because unlike a company like Rockstar, CIG doesn't have a big publishing firm behind it to pay for it all. So they have reason to do it, but it puts them in a bad look. And then you combine that with delays, you combine that with the normal problems you have with project development, and it starts to lead to a lot of frustration and resentment from people, like you said, who spent a lot of money and not seen the return that they hoped for. Return, quote unquote.
I think if you go in small, I would probably say money. I'm talking about, like, say for example, you pay out, I don't know, £100, $100 or whatever it is for a ship or whatever it may be, and you get it straight away. Yeah, that works. But the fact is, you've said that, so some people have spent big money on it and still not played for what they've paid for.
Yeah.
But they get access to the games. So what I'm saying is, I don't see it as a scam, as in you're playing hours. You've got some people have put thousands of hours into
Thousands
this, haven't
of
they?
hours,
Like,
yeah.
how many hours? Yeah. So do you know what I mean? That's not a scam, but you're enjoying what it is. But I just think you just got to see it as an investment, with the promise that you're going to get that ship. If you look at it with that mindset, I don't think it's too bad. But the thing is, today people want instant gratification. If I give you money, I want something in return, like immediately. People moan at me, for example, on my channel, they're like, when's the next video coming out? I'm like, damn, I've just released
You're
it.
taking too long, man. Come on.
And that's what I get. I'm like, I'm not full time here. I'm part time YouTuber. Like, give me a break. And that's free. That's free content. That's not paid. And they're biting at my ankles. So yeah, I just think that, you know, people that have invested, like, you know, one of the ships like 20 grand or something stupid like that. You know, if you
can get a pack of ships for 20. The most expensive ship, I think.
yeah.
Is
It
like
was
2,000 or
like
something.
it was like a pack of things.
Yeah.
Like if you can get access to parts of it, it's fine. But yeah, that's bad. That is quite bad if you're expecting. If it's got like expecting 6 months, then at least you've got an answer. But yeah, I don't know.
Oh
You've got
yeah,
to look at
no,
it as
there's
investment.
some people have been waiting like 8 years, 10 years for their ship, and there are some reasons that those ships don't come out. Like the gameplay is not there. It's honestly, it's kind of funny. The later that they make the ship you're looking for, the better they are at making ships. So technically, your ship ends up being better because they have this.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, technology is always improving. If they make your ship in 2018, by 2024, it's not as new as the other ones. So there is almost a benefit to getting your ship older, but a lot of them have been around for a long time without getting delivered. I will say this. There are things that if you buy a ship and it's not in game, you will get a loaner. So they'll give you something in game that takes the place of it. You can always sell the
Okay.
value of the ship that you got. So if you bought a ship in 2013 and you decide in 2024 that you don't want it anymore, you can sell it back to them for full credit and then buy something else on the store. So there's a pseudo refund kind of system for that. So they build some things in to make it feel like not as bad, but the
Yeah.
fact of the matter is that you will run into a lot of people who both do not have anything to do with Star Citizen and also have played it a lot and have legitimate grievances that will tell you it's a scam.
Yeah. But the thing is, that didn't put me off though. I was just a bit like, well, in my mind, don't put the money in. But then again, like what is it, $40? Did you say $45?
Yeah.
You can get thousands of hours, maybe more. Like that's fun. Do you know what I mean? Like, of course, it's buggy and whatnot, but that was the biggest thing that put me off. Was people like it's not playable, and I was like, what the hell? Why ask me to play it then if it's not playable?
They
Yeah.
say it's playable in their trailers, and it's definitely not to the point where like their trailer would imply. It's a glitchy mess, but you can get a lot of fun out of it and thousands of hours. Yeah. Yeah.
You got to take the rough with the smooth, haven't you? It's a bit like a
You,
marriage.
you do, and people are getting sick of the rough. But there's a lot
Okay.
of talk about that. The other side of it is, as you saw, Squadron 42 looks really good, and what you actually saw is like the first time in. That's the first time in 7 years we've seen Squadron 42 gameplay. That is
Okay.
different because nobody can play that. We can only play Star Citizen. So that is a single player game that the company has been for a long time saying, trust us, it's being developed, it's going to show up, it's going to be good. And we haven't been able to see it at all.
Yeah.
So on top of the fact that they are selling all of these ships for Star Citizen, but then using a majority of the money being sold for Star Citizen ships to fund the development of Squadron 42, because that's easier to
Right.
release. That is also kind of the angle of, again, not a scamp, but certainly players think that they're funding Star Citizen and they're funding Squadron. I mean, they're funding both. They both use the same engine, but
Right.
Squadron's the priority for the company because it's easier to get out. It can sell to more people, like you said. It can be like a Trojan horse to bring people in. So they have the strategy
Yep.
about it, but that strategy rubs people the wrong way.
Yeah, and it's also they need that it's getting that water's getting hot underneath their feet, and they've got to put something out quick, haven't they? Because it's been too long, and then at least
Yep.
they'll be like, "Well, we've put Squadron 42 out, okay."
Yep.
Because the thing is, the question is, will Star Citizen ever be ready? Because it's a bit like a film, you have to release it. If you don't release it, yes, of course, it's never going to be perfect. There's stuff that I've made in the past. I look at it now and I'm like, Jesus, why did I do that? It's just because that's the artist in you, I guess. So
Yeah.
I think you've just got, are they always expanding it? Are they always expanding the universe? Maybe they should say, like, do you know what? We haven't quite got a baguette. We've got a small roll. Let's just bring. We've got a BAP. Let's bring that out.
We got to finish this baking process. They've kind of done that.
Yeah.
So it was expanding quite a bit in different ways. It was like in little jolts. It's not like they were constantly doing this like new feature all the time. A lot of the new features that people think are new are features that they've talked about before and are bringing in, but they have added some things that have extended development. But this last year, actually in the same convention where that Squadron 42 trailer came out, they kind of said, okay, here's what the game's going to look like when it releases, and this is what we're working
Yep.
towards, so you guys all know. And yeah, I mean, it's up to everybody to decide whether or not it's all worth it. I think it's
Yes.
reasonable to be pissed. It's taken a long time.
Yeah, it's just interesting because I've never seen like long games before. Well, I've seen long games, as in release dates and things like that. But it's, I had quite a few comments like, "This is a scam," and I was like, "Ooh, damn, that's I've not had that before." But they don't come in the comment section saying, "Hi, don't play this because it's a scam." They're like, "It's just a scam. It's almost like a place to rent." It's like, go away, no one's listening to you. Understandably, if you are burnt, be a little bit more of a human being about it and explain it and express it rather than just coming to my feeds that was a cold caller and being like, don't do it. But at the moment, if you said are you going to play it or not, I'd say yeah, I'll definitely play it. But again, for me, it's hard to play games at the moment just because of work, has my real work, as well as the YouTube stuff, and then being a dad as well. So it's just a bit. I don't get a lot of time. So for something like Squadron 42 might be my way in, and it would kind of work. Like I'm like, oh, this is good. I get to play this, where I feel like Star Citizen is very much an ongoing thing. It's always going to be there. I said to someone in the comment section, it reminded me of Ready Player One. It's very much like an oasis, and it's your world.
Yeah.
And how exciting is that there's a space out there, no pun intended, that you can just do what you want to do. And I just think that's very exciting. And I get excited for players, as well as myself. If I win the lottery and I retire, I wouldn't even retire. But if I had a lot more time, I'd be like, yeah, let's go and let's spend the whole week in it. I'm not leaving the house.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would be excited by the idea of having a spaceship as your home and just being able to decide where that spaceship goes, who's allowed on it, and what it does. It's cool.
Can you rob other people? Can you rob them?
Oh yeah.
You break into their other ships?
Yeah. You can actually. The
Someone
plan
said you can
is
get insurance.
yeah,
was
yeah.
like,
So
what?
there's ship insurance. The plan is actually that you can steal someone's ship, and if you're able to get it out to low security areas and wipe the transponder, you can like take the ship fully. It's yours.
What happens if you pay like $2,000 for this big ship? It gets stolen, wiped. What do you then do?
You would have to get an insurance claim on it. So it wouldn't cost any real money, obviously, but you'd have to wait some time in game, and you'd get it back at some point.
Would you have like just a little loaner ship? Like a little, there you go, have this little ship.
Just wouldn't have anything. You better hope you have another ship.
Then what'd you do?
Have another ship or get a ride from someone. I mean, like, so the idea is that it won't be based on everyone having a ship. You'll be able to get passenger transport. You can go and do like ground-based gameplay. You can be somebody else without having a ship. But yeah, generally you're going to want to have a starter ship always in your back pocket that if you need to, you can pull it out because something else happened.
Nice. Wow. That's certainly something.
Yeah.
So I was just like, that's bonkers.
And like you said, Star Citizen's going to always be being built. It's like World of Warcraft, like an MMO. It's just 20 years from now, the hope for them is that they're adding new stories and content and stuff. And Squadron 42 is more traditional of a release. So something that I think you're spot on. People who want to just like be able to try out space and not get super deep into this complex MMO can try Squadron. Maybe someday it'll even release on consoles and a bigger audience can try it out. But it is a military campaign. So I would be interested in seeing how much people gravitate towards that.
Yeah, but I think that's an easy way in. For any sci-fi nerd, that is the easiest way in. Like, yeah, you got guns, off you go, and you're shooting aliens, or you're doing something along those lines. From what I saw, there was some long in the tooth parts, but at the same time, like, oh no, this is good. Does that make sense? But it's not like, here's your land. You have to farm 12,000 space cabbages before you can even get off the planet. That's no good. That's not going to excite people. But here's a gun. To the traditional gamer, I'm not talking about people that are big fans. I'm talking about cold callers here.
Yeah,
that will work. It's an easy sell, especially if you again. Yeah, they take their anger out on something, don't they?
Yeah, you're right about that. Did you ever play Halo Combat Evolved? The first
Well,
one.
that was one of the key things that, yeah, that's what started up the channel, really. Halo was a big thing for me. That's why I got a little Master Chief over here. Yeah, I played the original number 2 and number 3, and I grew up on them. That's kind of what made me a big fan of Xbox in general. And that's kind of what kind of kick-started the channel, really, because it was when I started covering Halo, people started going, oh, that's why you saw me covering the commercials for what what was it? Landfall? I think it's called.
Halo
I think it's
Landfall.
called Landfall.
Yeah.
That's how you saw it, but yeah, it was Halo content that is what got me into it. Yeah, I'm a big fan, and I've read most of the earlier books, not after I graduated or became a filmmaker and things like that.
We have like the same story. I feel like now I'm going to be poking you about Halo all the time. I am a huge Halo fan. I've got my own Master Chief here, just on my own.
Wow.
I am I big old Halo stan. I asked because I was talking to somebody last year about this game, and they made the point that Squadron 42 feels kind of like it has similar energy to what Halo Combat Evolved was when it came out. What do you say to something like that?
Yes, and yes, I can kind of get that. And what that is world building. That's why it feels like that. It's the immersiveness of it. Granted, Halo Combat Evolved, you jump in and you're the chief, but it starts out very much like Star Wars Episode 4. You are running from something, you don't know what. Why then you not even picked that up? You've not even picked that exposition up. I didn't even realise we were on the run because I was a kid when I played that.
Yeah.
It is a little nugget for you. Because of Halo, it's the reason why I play inverted.
Huh.
Because of Halo. Because
I
was a kid and I played it. No, it started like normal, and it says, "Do you want to be inverted?" And I went, I didn't know what that meant. I went, "Yeah, all right then." So I played the whole of Halo inverted, and that for the rest of my life, I'm what 30? Oh Christ, I'm 37 now, and I still play inverted because of Halo.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bungie.
I was the one. Like, when you go in your friend's house, you're like, "Stop, pause it, change it, inverted, ready to go."
Oh,
that was me.
yeah, you were that person. So like when we were getting ready for all the multiplayer sessions, and everybody has to change the controller because that one person's got to play with bumper jumper inverted.
Yeah, I was the inverted player, but then they'd moan, and then they would moan again when I kill them all because I was good at it. I used to be really good at it, not like esport level, but I was very good back in my prime.
Not
yeah,
playing
no,
it
I
anymore?
can see. No, the last Halo game I played was on the channel, and I did it live. It was my like tester of live streaming, and that was Halo ODST, Halo 3
Whoa.
ODST. Yeah, I streamed 2 videos. I did the first part because I was testing it out, you see, because I was still testing to the channel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still technically new to it. And I was testing. A lot of people ask me to do Let's Plays. But I know what I'm like. When I play a game, I switch off the filmmaker brain. I go, oh, that's pretty. But I'm not figuring out what the camera's doing, what the shake's doing, what frame rate we're at, what's lighting doing. I don't do that. When I play, I just play and I get excited. And Halo 3 ODST, people were like, you need to start playing them now. And I was like, okay, well, I've not played, beg your pardon, on Halo 3 ODST. So I started that out. And as I said, I couldn't really talk about the filmmaking. I apologise. Some people were like, oh, I found that quite interesting. But I was like, I apologise because I was just a gamer. I was having fun.
Yeah.
That's the last one that I did. And yeah, I live streamed the other 2 parts to it. And it was fun. And I loved it. Oh, dude, it got me so excited. And so when you say Squadron 42 similar, world building aspect, absolutely. Like seeing those people in the bunks. It also gave me Star Trek vibes, but not Star Trek play mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
The shooting needs to be like better. From what I saw, it didn't sound right and it didn't feel right, and that's a key thing. And that's what Bungie at the time specialized in, didn't they? So
yeah, they made shooting work for consoles, which was hats off to them, because now that's the favorite I play. I still have a controller right here ready to go if I want to play with the way they designed it. Yeah, that was a big moment for games, and I do hope that Squadron could be something like that, because they've put a lot of work into it, and I think at this point it needs to kind of show up.
I think because someone said that the shoot mechanics is much better than the trailer that I watched for Squadron 42. Like, it has improved dramatically. But yeah, half the time it was just like, why is the guy on the floor, shooting shooting a bullet sponge? That was the biggest thing that I got. And I was like, you tell me, I don't play it, so.
Those aliens in the game are also, they're supposed to be terrifying. Like, they're very scary aliens. They have this culture of not wearing armor if they're higher ranked because that's how tough they are. And then they just like ran in there and kind of took a few bullets and went down. I do think there's some balance they need to do on those enemies to make it more.
Yeah, like the thing is, what with Halo, for example, when you saw a Sangheili, it's like whoop, 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 you get really excited, don't you? Because you're like, oh my god, you are. And then when you see, oh dude, what was the big ones called?
The
Hunters.
hunters.
You are petrified,
Yeah,
and that's good. That's what you want to feel when you see those aliens. And
absolutely.
a bullet sponge is good. But you want to be able to see pieces coming off, like you're doing something, and he was just laying on the floor. And then when he came over and he was just hitting him on the floor, I was like, "Oh, dude, this is really pulling me out of the immersion here."
Yeah. Yeah. Go back to the cinematic part, the EVA. That was nice. Yeah, it
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
it's got
made
some
me laugh.
moments. But I think that overall, from my perspective as somebody who's been following this for a while and has not had eyes on Squadron and has wondered, I mean, this has been driving Star Citizen players nuts because all we have to go off of is how Star Citizen is performing at the moment. So we're like, can they make a good narrative experience? Is this going to look like good gameplay? Seeing that video was very nice because yes, there were problems with the gunplay. I agree they need to fix that, and the turret segment felt a little long, but it, like you're saying, it felt like a game. It felt like something that was going to draw people in, and it's nice to know that Star Citizen might actually have something like that, hopefully by next year.
Well, the fact that someone like me, again, who's a cold caller, not too up to date. Well, I'm kind of semi up to date to games and stuff, as in I'm aware of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't on my radar, but now is, and I'm excited to play it, or at least give it a go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate compliment that you can give to a game trailer, or like those ship commercials. Looking at the ship commercial, I would have thought it's much more further along in the process than what I've kind of got the gist from yourself and others. It's a very buggy mess because it looks beautiful and it kind of it looks like it plays beautifully. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so when you
Yeah, it
get your
does.
hands on, it's got to be tight. And then you get the star, celebrity cast. Like, oh my lord, that is amazing. Like seeing Henry Cavill in it and people like that. But I was more excited about Mark Strong because I love me some Mark Strong. I think he's
He did
awesome.
so well. I really enjoyed Mark Strong in his position in Squadron.
The only thing I didn't like was his accent. I was like, oh no. Like, he's American in it, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
nothing
got an
wrong
American accent.
with Americans. It's just, I was like, no, you're British. But then again, Gary Oldman did Gary Oldman have a British accent in it?
I don't think so.
Did he go American as well?
No, I think he
I
had
was
an
just
American
like, I
accent.
like Mark Strong, but he's better when he's an English person
Yeah.
because he just sounded a bit off on that. That's the only thing that pulled me out a little bit. But then again, I just got into his performance, and yeah, and the reason why I think I liked it as much as I did is because I still am a fan, but I don't know all the lore of Star Trek and Next Generation. That was always my thing, and I very much got Picard and Riker with them, and it gave me that vibe, and I love that. And for me, as a science fiction fan, yeah, that was like tick tick.
They are very good at knowing their base, like knowing people are fans of Star Wars, of Star Trek, of like Doctor Who, of Back to the Future. They do all the references here and there because they know, and it's easy for them to remake them, which I think is a very unique position to be in. Is a lot of games, there aren't many games that can reference sci-fi in the ways that Star Citizen can with spaceships and stuff, so that really works out for them. I'm gonna wrap things up here. I think I want to hear just one last question or thought from you, just one last thing that you wanted to know about the game before we finish things up, and then we can let folks know kind of where they can find your content.
What's the next question I have for it? So, okay, as a consumer of the product, someone that's got a whole channel built on it, did you, as a content creator, let's go content creation, let's go with that. What gets you excited when you see a Star Citizen trailer drop or something, a bit of information about it? What makes you excited? So excited, in fact, you got to make a video on it. How about that? There we go. Or is it always negative, and that's what sells? Because negative sells, man. I know those tricks.
Oh boy, no, I don't think people would call me. I mean, some people call me negative. I don't. I'm generally positive. When I make a video, it's because I see something that shows the game moving forward. Sometimes I try to make videos to keep people up to date, but a lot of times, if I'm making a video out of excitement, it's because something is happening in the game that's moving us past where we are, whether it's technologically or feature wise. If I'm watching a ship commercial and I see something, honestly, I'm mostly getting excited by seeing some kind of a mechanic. And even then, ship commercial, like I'm very much the game is being developed, we need to play the game kind of person. Ship commercials don't get me as much. I love watching them. They're just not my favorite part. So I would be more the person who like sees a little patch note release or something, and that's where I'm like, oh yes, let's see what's going on, you know?
Yeah. Because it will change. It gets you one step closer to what hands-on to a fully released game.
Yeah.
And
It's
yeah,
what we're here
I
for.
get that. Exactly. Is there do you have any questions regarding the filmmaking aspect for me before you sign off?
I'm actually I'm wondering when people are when they're shooting these trailers, because you talk about the lens changes that they're doing and all this stuff, how much of the real life stuff that you're doing when it comes to lenses and lighting and all of that translates directly into a digital space like that? Like, are they actually selecting in some drop down list, this is the lens that I'm shooting this video with? Or
Oh yeah, they definitely are. They
okay.
must have, because every lens has a different feel for it, and you can tell that. So if you're on a wide-angled lens, everything is, well, one, it's wide, but mostly the background, unless it's a shallow depth of field, the background's really far away.
Mhm.
So if you're on a telephoto lens, so a lens of a high number, yeah, so 17 being wide, I don't know, 100 being telephoto, like much more zoomed in. The background's compressed, and you can see that, as in the background gets brought up closer to the subject, and you can see it on their faces. Like, people will be really wide in the face, and then when on a telephoto lens, they're very more narrow, and you can see that they've definitely done their homework, and that's why some of those later commercials, and that's why Squadron 42 in certain areas looks as good as it does, because they're using the camera within the space on a certain lens type. And also focal length, as well as like aperture, so how much light comes in. You can tell that with some of it. I can't remember all of it, but you know, like there's bits where the actual lens type will be different. So this is a spherical lens, what I'm shooting on now, and it's just like still photography. Where I don't know in the Squadron ones if they're shooting anamorphic, and that's why sometimes it might feel really cinematic, because it's squeezed footage. But yeah, they are definitely pushing. You can tell, especially on the close-ups. And if they ever do an orbit strafe, so when the camera goes round the subject, if you see the background moving really fast, that's because it's done on a telephoto lens.
Right.
And the lighting, and you saw it. You answered it earlier. You said the later trailers or ads introduced a ton of backlighting, didn't they? And the reason being, backlighting is what makes something look cinematic, not from the other way. You can still shoot the other way, but it doesn't look as nice. It's the silhouettes that you want to go for and stuff like that.
Keep that in mind for all your sunset screenshots, everybody.
Yep. As I always say, shoot towards the sun or the moonlight, not away from it, and it'll look like 20 times better. Yeah, so that's what they're definitely doing. So yes, to answer your question, yes, they're doing their homework. I would 100% say.
I always think, when I think about that, I always wonder to myself, it'd be funny if you had lens companies telling these studios that are making these digital pieces, they're like, yeah, we've got this new digital lens that we can, they have a name for it and everything. They're like, yeah, if you give this, if you get this, you can render your stuff in the specific way that we know how it will look best. And
games are doing it, man. They are like the new Indiana Jones that just come out. Apparently, they actually had full-on DOP, so they had a director photographer there, and they shot it anamorphic. Not that I've seen it, because I'm going to potentially do it on the channel, but I heard they had a proper DP there who was choosing lenses as well as, because bear in mind, you're shooting in an empty theatre with just people with more caption suits on. The fact is, the framing's right, and he'd be like, I want to put this lens on, I want to put that lens on. It's still how they capture it. And
I
also, it's
see,
other
because
things.
you have to match it to a real life lens.
And that's what they do in these things. So you wouldn't surprise me in some of the motion capture stuff on this, they were doing that. They were choosing a focal length. And then you add extra layers. So they were using a lot of lens aberrations on this, a lot of lens flares,
Yeah.
especially on Squadron 42. And that's what's sexy. That it is visually, it's what sells the product. It makes it look a little bit nicer. So yeah, absolutely.
That's interesting. It's so weird because it's a digital space. So like you think, oh, you can just manipulate it however you want, but some people have the knowledge to make sure it matches exactly the look that needs to be.
Oh, dude, I would like one. I had a really good comment from a YouTube, one of the YouTube videos, and from Star Citizen, and they were like, "Why don't you reach out?" They were like, "I'd love to see you do an ad for one of the commercials," and I was like, "I'd be up for that. You make it happen, boy." Or they asked, or they said I should reach out to them and see if I could do something on the channel with them, as in the actual people that make Star Citizen or whatever.
Mhm.
And I was just like, that sounds like a good idea, but yeah, it's so interesting. But if you get someone that this is why I'm actually now, since doing the channel, I really want to work on a game, because it's so much easier in real life. I haven't got to feed them. I can put the camera wherever I want. I can fill layers, put the light wherever I want. I haven't got to wait for a certain time of day.
Oh yeah, that is nice.
Dude, you could put the camera wherever you want in this is what holds games back in their cinematics. It's the vision of how a camera is used, or how storytelling is used through a camera. And yeah, and I think Squadron 42 kind of sold me. And a lot of these later commercials, they kind of sold me. Some of the shots are naff, but some of the later ones are much better. They're really singing, and the editing, the crunchiness of it, yeah, very good. Yeah, they've definitely got better. So.
Yeah, they they really did. They're good at selling chips. That is one thing the company has become very good at, and hopefully that leads to a good game. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kai.
That's all right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, good talks. I did not get enough time to pick your brain about Halo, since I figured that one out so late in the discussion, but I want to hear more about your thoughts on that at some other point. Before we go, can you let everybody know where they can find the rest of your reactions and content?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube. It's mainly YouTube is what I work with, and that's just Kai Zammit. Or if you type in Filmmaker Reacts, I'll pop up, and I cover every game possible. Basically, I listen to the feedback of the community, and I react to games. Mostly at the moment, it's all cutscenes, so I'm literally doing all the cutscenes to like God of War to Halo, and I cover the whole thing as well as game trailers. But yeah, Kai Zammit across Instagram, Twitter, the whole shebang. It's pretty simple. It's just a name. So
cool.
That's where you can find me.
Awesome. Thanks again for joining me for this one. Hope to hear and see more thoughts of yours about other Star Citizen stuff. You're doing the StarEngine trailer soon, and I'm guessing
that'll be next week. Later. Yep.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, thank you again for joining me, and thank you everybody for watching or listening if you're on audio platforms. As always, you can find this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts. And then we also obviously have the 3 YouTube channels if you want to see different kinds of Star Citizen content. Either way, this has been the Launch Sequence Podcast. I've been your host, Space Tomato, and I'll see you all next week.